Thank you, Daniel. Well, good morning. It's always a pleasure to come here to your beautiful campus. Well, today, we're going to be talking about actually living the second unity principle. That second unity principle which affirms that everybody on this planet is divine. We are all divine beings. And it's always important to remember this, especially when we are encountering people with whom we don't always agree. It's easy to recognize a divinity in those people who are family members, usually. It's easy to recognize a divinity in our partners most of the time. It's easy to recognize a divinity in people who think the same way we do. That's why we like to be around like-minded people. But how easy is it for you to recognize a divinity in somebody who cuts you off in traffic? How easy is it to recognize a divinity in a coworker who doesn't do what they're supposed to do and shoves their work off on you? How easy is it to recognize a divinity in somebody who cuts you off on 95 or on the turnpike? They are just as divine as the people who think like you do and act like you think they should act. There is no difference, none whatsoever. And I'm going to share a well-known parable from Gospel of Luke, which talks about compassionate love. That is unconditional agape love for the community. And when we think about the community, we're not thinking just about the people who we like to be around, people who look like us, people who think like us and act like us. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and left him for dead. And you've probably all heard this. You know which way this story is going, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. So by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Now that priest could be a minister who's on their way to do a church service. Didn't want to be late for church. So he left the man laying on the side of the road, left him for dead. That priest could have been someone who was on his way to do some good community service. But he didn't want to be late for that appointment. But he left this man laying on the side of the road for dead because he had to go do good someplace else. So likewise, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side as well. Now this Levite could have been on his way to a business meeting, could have been like one of my great aunts, and this is a true story. This lady actually lived to be 101 years old. She was in her late 80s, early 90s, and she had an old car. She was on her way to a doctor's appointment. You know those real old cars are made of real steel. She hit a brand new Cadillac and kept going because she didn't want to be late for her doctor's appointment. So when the cops caught up with her, And she literally said, well, that man's car's not hurt that bad, and he's not hurt. And I'm going to come back after I see my doctor, but I got to go to my doctor's appointment. Needless to say, she lost her driver's license. But that Levite could have been on his way to a doctor's appointment, to a business meeting. Maybe he had a hot date. But he left this man laying on the side of the road. But then a Samaritan, on a business trip, on his way to a conference or a convention, he saw this man. And when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him, he bandaged his wounds, poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. Then the next day, he paid the innkeeper. And he said, take care of him, and when I come back, I will give you whatever extra money you may have spent. So which of these three men had compassionate love? Compassionate love. The reason I chose to make the first three letters all uppercase and compassionate is because it is unconditional, enthusiastic, passionate love for the community. This is what we find ourselves doing all the time. How many times do we see a homeless person on the street and look the other way? How many times do we encounter someone who, for whatever reason, just seems to be distracted or worried about something, and just keep moving? To have compassion for our community really takes very little, very, very little. Sometimes all it takes is a smile and a nod. The work that I do, the pastoral care work that I do, visiting hospitals and facilities and even private homes, you see people who are really hurting, and I'm not talking about the patients now, I'm talking about family members and caregivers. You see someone in a hospital who may be dealing with a loved one who is in the process of transition. Doesn't hurt anything to just look at them and smile and nod. You don't have to say a word. Lots and lots and lots of people, myself included, drive around with non-perishable food in the car. You see someone homeless on the street, just give it to them. I know sometimes I do it, and I've seen other people do it as well. You go to a restaurant. Lots of times you get these to-go boxes because you can't eat all the food they give you. You end up taking it home and sticking it in the fridge and forget about it, and then you throw it away. Give it to somebody on the street who's out panhandling. I have never, ever, ever offered food to someone who is homeless, and they did not accept it. One morning, I was actually almost moved to tears. I had done the meditation service at the beach. We always go to breakfast afterward. I can't remember exactly what it was right now, but it was more than I could handle. So I had the to-go box. And there was this young man, I don't know if you're familiar with the Fort Lauderdale area, but he was literally near the ramp going onto 95 off of Cypress Creek Road. And I called him over to the car and I handed him my to-go box. He barely made it to the shoulder before he sat down and popped it open to eat. It didn't cost me anything. I'd already paid for the food. I had intended to eat it. It was just too much. Take the time to just remember that these people who appear to be derelict by physical outward appearances, you wouldn't want to touch because they probably smell bad. They are just as divine as everybody sitting in this building. That divinity that is within us is within all of us. The town of North Lauderdale, city, town, whatever they call it, at their town hall complex, sitting on the street, and it's been there for quite a while, there's a big sign that says, "We are one." The first time I saw it, I was driving down the street, I stopped and took a photograph of it. Those of you with whom I may be friends with on Facebook have seen it on my banner wall on Facebook. You know, they keep telling you to change the picture. I have refused to change this picture because I want everyone who comes to my Facebook page to see and remember and recognize we are one. It's not because I'm lazy. I just think that that is something that needs to always be right in our face. We are one with each other. We are one with every creature on this planet. Whether they look like us, think like us, talk like us, act like us, or not. We are all one. This is a truth that we claim. This is the truth that we say we believe. So it's only natural and normal that if we say we believe this, then make it a part of our lives. That's the fifth unity principle. We know these truths. We know these truths, and therefore we live the truth that we know. The truth that we know is regardless of political affiliation, regardless of what kind of work you do or don't do to make your living, regardless of how anybody looks, everyone is divine. We are all blessed with that. Examples of compassionate love are not only in the New Testament with the story of the Good Samaritan. The entire book in the Hebrew Testament of Nehemiah is about compassionate love. It's about love for the community, unconditional love for the community. I'm not going to go into the whole thing because it is an entire book in the Bible. If you get an opportunity, sit down and read it. The bottom line is this: Nehemiah was called internally, in his spirit, called to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. He ran into all kinds of challenges, all kinds of obstacles. But not only was he successful in rebuilding that wall, he was able to bring Jerusalem back to life. And at Unity Village, a couple of times a year, they have what's called a Nehemiah Project, or Nehemiah Week, where anyone who is willing and physically able to do so is invited to come to the village and be a part of that Nehemiah Project, painting, planting, just making the place pretty, keeping it up and beautiful. And it's a wonderful experience. I personally have not done it yet. It is on my bucket list. I do intend to participate in a Nehemiah project at Unity Village. Those people who I know who have participated cannot say enough about what an enriching, fulfilling experience that has been for them. So I'm looking forward to it. Other people who we know about, who have engaged in compassionate love for their communities, are just normal, everyday people. But you also have those who went on a large scale with their compassionate love for their communities that we know about. Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So if you want to see peace, be peaceful. If you want to see love, be loving. If you want to receive, give. Be that change Be what you want to see. Martin Luther King Jr. was another one. His compassionate love for his community was what guided him to do what he did to bring about change, not only in his immediate community, but the whole country and the world. He wasn't out to get the Nobel Peace Prize. That was not his goal. That was not his intention. His intention was through compassionate love for his community to bring about positive change. And he did that. Nelson Mandela was another one. This man not only brought about change in his community and his country, he left an indelible mark on the world. Now, you don't have to be a Gandhi or a King or Mandela. All you have to do is take those baby steps. Take those baby steps of showing individuals one by one, make that connection by just a smile, just a nod. There was a grocery clerk who was still in high school working part-time. Turned out to be the best cashier, the fastest cashier they had in that store at that time. And the manager took them aside, said, "You need to slow down." And just like I said, she was in high school, so this kid, "Why should I slow down? I'm doing my job. I'm doing a good job. You just said so." Slow down. When customers come to you at your cash register, just say hello. Just say hello and give them a smile. And it doesn't have to be a big toothy grin. Just a small smile. Hello. Acknowledge their presence. How many of you have noticed that when you go into CVS now, somebody always greets you? Sometimes with a very loud hello. How much more likely are you to stay there longer and maybe spend money you didn't intend to spend because someone took the time to greet you when you walked in that door? It's the same thing. It's the same principle. It's not hard work. It's not a lot of work at all. It doesn't take any energy. Just be aware. You don't know how many people may be dealing with an unexpected diagnosis, may be dealing with a financial challenge or some other problems, like someone very dear to them in the process of or having recently made a transition. And a simple smile can change their whole feeling, their whole day can be uplifted because someone took the time to just acknowledge with a smile. You know, you don't have to do that. Remember there was a little thing, "Have a nice day," and little happy face buttons and all of that. You don't have to do that. It's just really easy. How much better would you feel if you're going through? I mean, stuff happens in life all the time. So if you're going through some changes and you're walking down the street or in a store or in a restaurant or somewhere and trying to figure out how you're going to overcome whatever that challenge is, and someone walking by you just and keeps walking, just nod and smile and keep it moving. It makes such a big difference. So think about how you would feel in that kind of situation. And always be willing to be the Christ that you know you are and to shine that Christ light. Now at 1 o'clock, we're going to have a workshop, and I think it's going to be fun. Got some pretty cool stuff planned. And I hope you're able to come because we're going to go deeper into this.
There appears to be a great deal of suffering.
So, let us all understand, acknowledge, and be at peace with the fact that compassionate love, unconditional, enthusiastic passion for our community is what makes it so much better. Not just for the people we're reaching out to, but to ourselves as well. God bless you. I'll see you at 1 o'clock.
Thank you, Vernelle. What a beautiful message. And as I was listening,